dia ngomelin dengan bahasa dia, kami kayak ngata-ngatain dengan bahasa
They are
kami.
screaming in their language, we are screaming and yelling with our language. And there was once one of my friends, a younger crew, was hit by one of the Chinese crew, and all I did at that time was basically separate the fight. I did not want anything to happen to my friend, and I thought at that time, as a senior, I realized that this is the situation. Yes, it's hard, but laying your hands on a crew, like hitting a crew, it's unacceptable.
Hello and welcome to On the Level. I'm Jeff Hutton. Today, Rizky Fauzan. He was one of an estimated 200,000 Indonesians working around the world on foreign fishing vessels. Between the end of 2019 and April of this year, 4 of his fellow crew members died of a mysterious illness aboard a Chinese fishing vessel, the Long Xing 69. Activists said the illnesses, which included breathing difficulties and severe swelling, were linked to poor conditions on board. The men said they drank briny water and ate food past its expiry date. Rizky earned $400 a month, more than triple the pay he could otherwise expect to earn in Indonesia. But while at sea, a portion of his pay was withheld and would be forfeit if he quit. He and his fellow crew members were held in isolation. There was no cellular service and no authorities inspected conditions on the boat. On the Long Xing, shifts lasted 18 hours or more. Language barriers with the all-Chinese senior crew made it nearly impossible to communicate. 3 of Rizky's crew members were buried at sea. A 4th died while in quarantine in South Korea. And that's where the crew tipped off local media of their ordeal and posted on social media the video of one of the burials at sea. Rizky and the rest of the crew were repatriated to Indonesia in May and now works with SPPI, the Indonesia Fishery Workers Union. He joined me via Zoom from his home in Jakarta. Rizky, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, no problem, sir.
I wanted to start by getting a sense of what it was like when you were trying to find a job. I think you were 22 years old, you're 28 now. Back when you were 22, what kind of job prospects did you have? And what led you then to take a job on a fishing boat?
Jadi waktu setelah lulus
As
itu kan
a
aku
fresh graduate, I felt like it's very difficult for me to find work. And when I finally got a job, I worked as sales marketing at one of the cellular provider, Axis, with a salary of 1.8 million rupiahs and 300,000 in a form of phone credit. And I felt like it's really not enough. I couldn't save money. And then a friend of mine offered me a job at these fishing vessels with $300. And the requirement is minimum junior high school graduate.
And you graduated with high school?
Yeah, Mbak.
So there was an offer for a job paying double what you could earn with double of what was available. So you jumped at the chance.
Iya, benar.
Yeah, exactly. I jumped at a chance with the hope that I can save some money.
When you say that you wanted to save, what did you want to save for?
I was married at that time. I left my kid, and my wife is really to save for my family, for us to buy a house and to meet family needs.
How tough was it to convince your family and your wife at the time that this was a good opportunity and that it made sense for you to go far away and to do work that was very alien to you? I mean, you didn't probably know many fishermen. How hard was it to get them to agree to this decision?
Sebenarnya sih istri kayak nggak terlalu ngerongkong gitu ya.
She is not too demanding. The most important thing for her is for her husband to have halal income. And I also explained to my wife that working out there in the ocean, it's going to be difficult to communicate. It's going to be difficult to get cell phone reception, for instance. And for her, it doesn't matter.
And by halal, you mean that it was in compliance with Islamic tradition and Islamic law.
Halal tuh kayak gimana? Kayak nggak menyimpang gitu loh, Mbak.
You can work at any job for as long as it's not against Islam.
Did you have any idea of what was involved of being a fisherman working on the high seas for long periods of time when you applied for the job?
Waktu pelamar itu pertama kan aku di Tegal.
When I started, I was in Tegal and I received a training to work at sea. At that time, the training did not explain in detail on how to work at sea. After 2 weeks of training in Tegal, I was sent to the head office in Cibubur, where I was shown this video that described how work is at sea. And that was the first time when I have this imagination, this is a little picture of how work will be at sea.
And what was that picture like? Was it a bit confronting?
Kalau aku waktu ngeliat itu sih pertama kayak seru nih.
What I had in mind was it must be exciting. It's a new challenge. I love new challenges. I thought, how could we transfer fish in the middle of the high ocean? How does it work? And then I imagine also working at sea, and it's going to be difficult for me to go home. So I was scared, but when I finally was there in Taiwan, the reality at the beginning was not as scary, really.
Not as scary, meaning that it was just like a normal, it was sort of a normal job?
Jadi kan waktu di pelatihan ini kan ada ex-ex yang udah finish kontrak pulang di sana. Aku kadang
during the training, I met those who have finished their contract, and I asked them questions, and they say that the working condition was terrible. We had very little sleep. The vessel was dirty, and that was the condition that I experienced as well. But when it comes to workload and burden, we share the workload and burden.
It sounds to me like there was a certain amount of teamwork and dedication and commitment on his part.
Iya, jadi waktu itu aku emang dapat.
When I first joined the ship, there were 20 people. We've known each other very well during the training, so we feel like brothers already, and we are fortunate that we were deployed at the same fishing vessel. So we had a great teamwork, and we replace each other whenever one feels tired, and I was lucky that we've known each other very well.
So tell us about an average day on a fishing boat. And I suppose we should say that this was a Taiwanese vessel, and you worked 2 contracts on Taiwanese vessels before joining the Long Xing. So tell us about a normal day on the Taiwanese vessels.
Jadi kan aku dibagi 2 kelompok nih dalam 20 itu, waktu itu dibagi kelompok setting.
We divide into 2 groups. First is the setting group, those who are throwing baits and preparation. The setting group work from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning. And then they get to sleep from 9 a.m. in the morning, usually until 10 or until 11. And then I joined the second group, the holding group, and we work from 11 in the afternoon to midnight with meal every 6 hours.
Nah, itu dimulai dari jam 11 sampai jam 12 malam. Jam 11 siang sampai jam 12 malam. Dengan kelipatan setiap 6 jam makan sih.
So you work 12-hour days?
Ya, aku hauling cuma 12 jam.
On average, each of us work 12 hours a day. And the setting team, after they get a little bit of sleep, they join the afternoon team. So from 11 in the afternoon to 6 p.m. And then another 4, they join from 6 p.m. in the evening to 12 a.m. And we have a supper at 6 p.m. And then we take turn taking sleep.
And it should be stated that when you go to sleep, you're actually, you're in group conditions and you're actually quite close to the engine room too. So it's not comfy cozy, is it?
Tidurnya kayak pepes gitulah.
Exactly. We're lined on this bed like one of those dried fish. We sleep very, very close to one another. Only we have this very thin board, only a couple of centimeters that divide one worker to another. And the function of the board really is to block against the wave. And we slept under the kitchen and behind the engine room. And the situation was crazy dirty. Cockroaches, rats, you name it.
Okay, so we're setting sort of the baseline of your work conditions. Now, what led you to take a job at the Long Xing?
Waktu perangkat kedua itu aku pulang tahun 2018 bulan 6, Mbak.
When I returned home, on June 2018, we were separated, my wife and I. And I don't know the reason, perhaps because she felt like I've left her for too long. And so I thought at that time I really should get another job, like immediately. And so I went to the company and asked for jobs. And so I submit my application in October, and I was able to leave for Long Xing on February 2019.
So you made an application to join another crew after you and your wife separated. And what was it about the Long Xing that attracted you? I understand the work on the Taiwanese vessels was dirty and cramped, and the pay wasn't great. So the Long Xing offered better conditions and more pay? Was it as simple as that?
Aku mutusin waktu setelah pisah. Karena memang kerjaan susah.
What I realized is that following my separation with my wife, I found difficult to find work, and I've already been working at sea for quite a long time, and this is my work, my job, and so I thought I'll just and try to find works at sea. And I didn't know that I will work at Long Xing. I was informed 3 days prior to contract signing. And so during the waiting periods, I didn't know what vessel would I work in. I did negotiate for my pay. I negotiate for $500 US, and I negotiate for $450. Finally, the deal was at $400 US, and I thought, okay, I'll take it. I was frustrated. It's difficult to find work. We ran out of money, so it's more a necessity rather than a choice.
And this is with the same recruiter you were using before?
Iya, yang pertama tapi.
This is with the same recruiter that gave me my first contract with the Taiwan vessel, not the second one. Yeah.
So you had every reason to expect that the conditions on the Long Xing would be the same as the conditions on the Taiwanese ship, and you're just going to be making more money.
Aku kebayangnya karena mungkin kapal besar ya, Pak.
I thought at that time Long Xing was a much bigger vessel. So I thought, okay, this is a bigger vessel. I want to try. In terms of salary, it's the same with my latest contract with Taiwanese vessel, $400.
But I think you very quickly found out that it wasn't going to be the same, that there were much longer hours. And your testimony to the Human Rights Commission, I believe that you said that they were working hours of about 18 hours a day. Could you tell us about a regular day in a life and conditions on the Long Xing?
Nih di kapal Long Xing 629 ini kan 629 ini dibagi 2 kelompok nih Mbak.
At Long Xing 629, we were divided into 2 groups, the setting groups and the holding group. The setting group worked from 1 a.m. in the morning to 10 a.m. in the morning, and at 10 a.m. in the morning, they could have their breakfast, but only for like 10 minutes or less. If they were called to start working, then they have to immediately wash their plate and begin to work. Afterwards, the second shift is for the hauling group. The hauling group work from 10 a.m. in the morning until 4 a.m. in the morning the next day. So I joined this group, and the setting crew also joined the team. So after they have breakfast and a little bit of rest, 3 of them must work again until 8 p.m. in the evening, and another 4 joining the hauling team working from 8 p.m. in the evening until 4 a.m. eat every 6 hours. And this is basically how we work. For me, working from 10 in the afternoon until 4 a.m. in the morning, I could only sleep from 4 a.m. in the morning to 10 a.m. in the morning. That is, of course, including breakfast and shower. And so not much time to sleep. In addition, we have, all of us also have to work longer shift, that is from 10 a.m. in the afternoon, in the morning, I mean from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. the next day. This is not happening every day, but quite often, about 4 to 5 times a month.
I think it also needs to be said that the crew, the captain, the cook, the other chiefs of crew, the other leaders are all Chinese, and you and your mates are Indonesian. How did you communicate?
Jadi ada bahasa kapal Mbak.
We have our own terminologies, and I also get some of the experience from working 4 years at Taiwanese vessel. So I know a little bit of the Chinese language of Mandarin, but very limited to the daily terms that we use at fishing vessels. And we communicate also using cellular phone. So I downloaded Google Translate app, and whenever I want to say something, I type on my phone and then I just show the phone to them.
And so here you have a situation where you're working very long hours with very little sleep in a very demanding job with limited language ability to communicate with your bosses. There's lots and lots of room for misunderstanding and frustration and conflict. Tell us about that.
Ya karena kami cuma BK ya Mbak. Jadi kalau disuruh apa-apa ya
just the crew. Everything they say we follow, because we have signed this contract which include provisions on insurance, provisions on sanctions. All of those are not working for the best interest of the crew. The provision said that whenever I disobey, for instance, the contract will be broken, my salary will not be paid afraid, for instance. So I just obey and work and not thinking about running away. For instance, I was afraid that my salary will not be paid. I thought I'm here to get some money, so I did not want to go home empty-handed. With regards to misunderstanding, basically they are screaming in their language, we are screaming and yelling with our language. There was once one of my friends, a younger crew, was hit by one of the Chinese crew, and all I did at that time was basically separate the fight, and I did not want anything to happen to my friend. And I thought at that time, as a senior, I realized that this is the situation. Yes, it's hard, but laying your hands on a crew, like hitting a crew, it's unacceptable.
In May, three of your comrades, three of your other crew members died of a mysterious illness, and a fourth, the three were buried at sea, and a fourth died in a South Korean hospital. Can you tell us about the conditions and that led up to that?
Dimulainya pada bulan Oktober.
October 2019, the vessel stopped their operation. We don't know what was the reason. So we just eat, sleep, fishing for shark, and the vessel just stayed there. We were not divided into setting hauling team anymore. And at the end of October, we felt that there's something very different. Some of our friends, some of the crew members, at the beginning, there was just an average size, average men, but now they've grown very fat. Their skin, for instance, if we touch their skin, we can see that it's almost like it's swollen. And at the beginning, we just care for our friends the way we can. But then some of them experience chest pain and breathing difficulty. Al-Fatah, he was the one who first passed away and also who first experienced. Al-Fatah started to get sick in October, and the second one, Sepri started to get sick in November. Sepri told me that he had been experiencing breathing difficulty, and he was at that time very, very fat. And 1 week prior to his passing, he couldn't walk. We need to feed him, and we need to help him to go to the toilet. He had breathing difficulty, and when we told his situations to the captain provided us with some kind of infusion and also medication, almost expired medication even, and it did not have any effect at all on Sepri's condition. And all of my friends experiencing illness, symptoms are the same. Swollen feet first, and then swollen face, and then finally swollen body, like swollen chest. And that was when it gets really, really bad. They experience breathing difficulty and all, and it led to their passing.
Was there any attempt to get a doctor?
No, they just provide us with medication.
And the boat just stayed at sea. It didn't put into port.
Di tengah laut, diem aja kapalnya.
The vessel stayed in the middle of the ocean, and whenever we complain about our illness, they just give us medication. They ask for their friends on whether they have spare medication, but no other efforts.
Did you get sick?
Aku setiap minum air
I experienced breathing difficulty every day, every time I woke up in the morning and drank water that they provide.
And I suppose it should be said here that you've said the water was briny, that it was seawater that was put through some sort of filtration system. It seemed dirty, and the food was of very poor quality too, and you're in bad living conditions.
Ya, waktu di atas kapal tuh dikasih makan yang udah expired, Mbak.
We were provided with not only low quality food, but expired food. Chickens that had been sitting for too long in freezer, already been expired, rotten vegetables. And yes, we drank from distilled seawater. Some are not as clear. It smelled like a rusty iron. And the Chinese crew, they eat very different food. Their foods are fresh. They have different vegetables every day, and it tasted delicious. I mean, I know that it tasted delicious because I've asked them for it, for a share of that food, and I've tasted their food. And they have mineral bottled water, but they didn't share it with us.
And you asked them to share the water, and they didn't. What would happen if you complained?
Pernah minta sih kayak dicuekin aja sih, Mbak.
They ignore our requests. I've asked to the cook when they are preparing food for the captain, and the cook said, no, you cannot have this food, not even food. We've asked for water, like clean, drinkable water. They said no, and we don't know who to complain to, because we were prohibited to communicate to our agency. I've protested. I said, share your food, share your water, but the captain and other Chinese crew member just being very indifferent and just ignore our protests.
Eventually, you put into port in South Korea, and another one of your crew members died in hospital there, and the story broke about the Long Xing 629. Since then, have you got the help that you needed from the authorities, from the Indonesian government, for example?
Waktu pertama datang, aku kan di karantina.
When we first arrived in South Korea, all 14 of us, because of COVID-19, we went through a COVID test, COVID swab test, and we were quarantined. And at that time, my friend Effendi was okay, was in good condition, was okay. And the captain that brought us to South Korea, they're supposed to brought us at April 14 or 18, but basically at that time, what we had in mind was who is going to pay for the cost of the quarantine. We were scared that all of the costs of the COVID quarantine will be cut from our salary. The embassy of Republic of Indonesia in South Korea had not yet contacted us at that time. The next day of the quarantine, our colleague, my friend Effendi, is complaining about breathing difficulty and learning from the experience of our 3 friends that had passed away. I believe that we must take immediate action. So I called my agency in South Korea. He is Korean. And we communicated, we speak English as much as we can, and I told our agency that my friend was sick and with breathing difficulty, and immediately that day, at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, ambulance arrived, and we went to the hospital with Effendi. And in the evening, only then, people from Indonesian embassy in Korea came and visited us. And the next morning, Effendi died. And ever since the passing of FND, then we receive a lot of attention from the government. Previously, we just share our grievance to the Fishing Labor Union Indonesia, SPPI, that we haven't got paid for 15 months and so. And yes, PPI or SPPI have been very kind to us as well, this union of fishing workers.
You have since been paid, is that correct?
Kalau PT ku udah. Jadi di Long Xing kan ada 4 PT.
Indonesian crews aboard the Long Xing working for 4 different agencies. I work for PT Lakemba. There were 5 of us, and we have received our full salary. We haven't received our bonuses, but we have received our full salary. With PT SMG, they haven't paid the crew. And another one was PT Alvira. They haven't paid the crew working through them at all. And the last one is PT KBS. They are the agency of 2 of the passing crews. So the crews that work for them or work through them have passed away, and I really don't know what's happening with their salary, but I've heard from the brother of my friend who passed away that the company has paid their insurance.
But I was wondering if you could suggest some reforms that would be needed in order to avoid situations like this in the future. What can be done to make your working conditions safer?
Ya, itu kan tadi sebelumnya aku udah bilang yang konvensi C188 ini tuh.
If I can suggest, is basically commitment to comply to ILO Convention C188 that regulates working hours of crew, facilities that they deserve, time, how to treat the crews, and in addition to this ILO Convention, what I would like to see from the government is law enforcement and legal certainty, and also governance and help with placement of the crew, of the fishing crew, and protection. Also more attention to the situation of fishing crew. Because, for instance, one of the things that make us unable to do anything and unable to fight our condition is that we are prevented from communicating with our agency, with the authority, etc. And we were basically blind out there at the sea until there are cases or even death as experienced by our friends.
And I think that's the real takeaway from it too. This is a problem that doesn't require a lot of work to fix. Basically, if you were allowed to communicate with your contractors and with officials, if there was a little more or just any oversight, these deaths may have been avoided.
It's the difficulty of communication, really, that make this a bigger problem.
Well, Mas Rizky, we're very happy to have you back, and thank you so much for joining us. I wish you well. And that's the program. Thank you to Rizky Fauzan and the Indonesia Fisheries Worker Union. Our producer is Stephen Handoko. Translation by Satya Maruf. Research by Imam Shofwan. If you like us, please subscribe and rate us. It helps. We'll be back next week. I'm Jeff Hutton. Bye for now.